Good evening. It's Sunday Night Roundtable. And the Titans have just decided that they're going to go 4-0, and the hell with all that nonsense of, God, if we could get through this 2-2 or whatever. No, the Titans decided they're just going to rattle off wins against the Bills, the Chiefs, the Colts. And they finish up with a nice 28-16 victory over the Rams, which that 16, by the way, you could take that and go all the way to hell. That game just would not end. They were going to give them enough penalties and finally get a damn touchdown. Guys, how are we tonight?
Great. I think you had a great analogy about an ex that just won't leave your house after a breakup for that game not ending.
I mean, God, it was like packing one CD. Do I need to leave? And then packing another CD. I don't want to go. It's like, just let's get out of here. Like, it's done. We broke up.
Yeah, this game was, I mean, I hate to say it was over early, but the Titans defense came to play tonight. And this just set the tone from the start that the Rams were not going to play, not going to drive the ball down their throat, not going to have those quick hitter scores. And that was really the difference in a lot of the game. The offense had hit and miss moments throughout the game, playing some players you didn't think were going to be there, with Lawan being inactive. But overall, you gotta like that this team went out there to LA, beat one of the best teams in the NFL, and now went 4-5-0 across the stretch. When people said they were going to go, they should just rest starters and stuff. I mean,
rest starters.
Why rest starters? That's like I said at halftime. Not with a Mike Vrabel coach team. You don't do that shit.
Hold on, I'm going to look deep into the camera here and say they did win this game, but at what cost, Ryan? At what cost did they win this game?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I can't believe some of the bullshit that goes on Twitter.
Let's start with the obvious. Titans defense was fantastic, and that was going to have to be the difference maker leading into this, and it absolutely was. I'm going to go off on my little bit of tangent first, and then we can get back to business. I tweeted out earlier, look, I'm not one to stump or clout for national media attention. I think it's silly. It's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. Stop concerning yourself about it as a Titans fan. However, it really did seem like that Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth spent all week preparing for a Rams blowout and almost did not know what to talk about with the Titans defense for the whole first half of the game. At multiple times, the Rams would get a first down or convert on a second or third, some sort of big conversion, and Collinsworth would get all out of shape about, oh, this is the spark, Sean McVay and this masterful offense. That masterful offense had 9 points on the board until about 20 seconds left in the game, and that is all credit to the Titans defense.
Yeah, I mean, this is a defense that came out, and ultimately you look at the front four. They've been decimated by injuries on the back end. I think that the defensive backs have been playing pretty well, but at the same time, they, knock on wood, have not had to deal with a bunch of injuries on that defensive line. And you really saw it in that first half, especially. Jeffrey Simmons had one of the best halves that you will ever see from a defensive tackle. I think a lot of people, we talked about it in the halftime show, jokingly, everybody thought that, we were going to come in here and see a defensive tackle take over the game. And we did. It just wasn't the one that everybody expected. Aaron Donald is still Aaron Donald, but Jeffrey Simmons had, again, one of the best halves that you will ever see from a defensive tackle when it comes to professional football.
So glad the Titans didn't trade Simmons for Vita Vea.
Vita Vea. That sounds like
a hell of a player. Let's just be clear.
Yeah, he is. Like, he is, but so is Jeffrey Simmons.
I'm also going to give a shout out right here. If you guys want to jump in on the comments here, as always, I'm gone. You can probably still hear me. I'm just a black screen right here.
We still see you paused.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm still here. But make sure you join in on the YouTube channel or Facebook to join in on the comments.
Yes, you do have to have a beard to be on the show. Apparently, you may get some people may say you look like old comedians from the '90s, but yes, you
actually. I'll get a comment in here. Ben may not be aware of this, but for the teams, like we're covering the Titans here, he's kind of a Colts fan, so these are actually playoff beards. He doesn't have to worry about that.
Playoff beards. I've been telling myself it's a playoff beard for like the last 5 years, and not to just cover up this ample fat landscape I've got to deal with here. So that's absolutely what we're going with. I want to switch sides of the ball real quick before we go back to the positives, because the Titans offense was not great. It was very lackluster tonight. For those that were expecting Adrian Peterson to go off, I was not. I'm not trying to be the expert after the fact. I do have to say, even with that, a little disappointed that he wasn't able to get more yards. I was happy to see him get a touchdown because I know he broke some sort of record with that. Forgive me, I don't know the record off the top of my head, but
125th touchdown, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. But the Titans offense was very lackluster. A.J. Brown had some bad drops and moments he didn't need them. And the offense just did not have a rhythm. How concerned are you that they didn't have a rhythm? I mean, okay, they're 4-0 in the last 4, right? But at some point, this offense has to get clicking
Yeah,
consistently.
I think one of the big things is that this is a team that came in here and saw Aaron Donald, saw Floyd on the other side, and thought that there may be a Von Miller coming off the edge. I think they had game planned on that all week, and they
Sure.
came in here, even though Von Miller was going to be inactive, you didn't see them trying to take a ton of shots downfield. So there were some things that took them off their game. But also, I think you saw kind of there wasn't much of a change in what they were doing. So you're putting in essentially 3 running backs. McNichols has been involved in the game plan, but he very much was increased in workload tonight. So I think there's going to be a little bit of time to kind of pick up that cohesion on offense with the rest of the players that are going to be there. But one of the big things that I will say is like, look, we don't have to try and reinvent the wheel here. If you have AJ Brown on one side and Julio Jones on the other side, if Jalen Ramsey is matched up on one side, don't go to that side. Like you can simplify your offense to that level. Now I know that the Rams were sliding their safety over to Julio because they thought Jalen Ramsey could handle himself against AJ Brown a little bit there, but at the same time, you don't have to don't throw at him. That's fine. Don't let him beat you.
Look, it's a team sport, right? So you're going to have some of these games across the season where you got to count on the other side of the ball to step up and play. Now, that being said, the good thing the defense did show up to play tonight, because this game would have been ugly from the start because the offense started slow. It's taken a little bit. You can say they did stick to what they were doing. It's going to be some adjustment with how they play without having a player the caliber of Derrick Henry. Now they can get through it because, like you said, they are replacing basically 3 backs with 1, essentially, with the production. So Adrian Peterson also has to get used to where these cuts are in the zone block scheme and some of their duo action, the gap schemes. So he's got to get used to how the Titans run and block. That you see him, he was not, I wouldn't say tentative at any points, because I think that he just was trying to find where the cuts were, because that's what Adrian Peterson loves to do. And when he's the most successful, I thought he was fine for his first game. I don't know what his average was or anything like that. I know he had 21 yards on 10 carries, so that's not great. But at the same time, you give him this one game to get going. You want to see that start to build and see him build momentum on that. So Adrian Peterson is like I said during the game. I think that you're just happy to have a body that can soak up some carries for this offense. That needs to be. He doesn't need to be the bell cow. He's not going to be the Derrick Henry. He's not going to get you 30 carries a game, but somewhere living in that 10 to 15 range as he gets more effective as you go, I think is going to be a bonus. But what I will say about the Titans offense, I saw a lot of people, saying screw Todd Downing. He's terrible. He's awful, all this good stuff. That's fine. But let's go back and look at how those drives stopped. AJ Brown drops a sure fire first down on a 3rd and 4 or 5, dropping the pass. He dropped 2 third downs as well. There was a false start by Ferkser that knocked him out. That would have been a first down to AJ Brown on the next pass if they would have run it. So they still shot themselves in the foot a little bit. So you can't have that going on and lose Derrick Henry. So that's the kind of stuff they have to clean up. Not necessarily the scheme or all that, but that's the kind of stuff I want to look forward to the offense cleaning up as you go forward. 2 things real quick. No clue about David Long yet. And I haven't seen any reports about Lawan was dressed in play. I assume he tweaked something, or if they just did it out of caution.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, media is probably just now starting to get in front of people. I'm sure we'll know shortly, maybe even by the end of this show, on some of those questions about David Long. Lawan being dressed and didn't play, we don't know either. I was, unless I missed something during the game to where one of the reporters on site commented, we don't know either. So something clearly happened between warm up and go time to where he wasn't able to go. Titans defense, and I want to switch back to that for a second, because again, in my, talking about Collinsworth and all that, using my analogy about they didn't prep for him. Look, all that aside, I just don't know what else you can say about, let's start with Simmons. I mean, I just can't get enough of that big man up front. And he just makes me smile. I can't repeat what I said in chat about him, but he really makes me a happy man.
So one of my friends said about him tonight was willing to give up for that man.
Like,
so yeah.
What is it with Simmons that makes him, what does it for him? What makes him tick? What makes him successful, like specifically tonight, and just what he's doing?
He's strong. He's fast for his size. I mean, it's not even for his size. He's an athletic guy.
I thought you were about to bust into like a Reddit copy pasta there. He's so big, strong.
So big, so strong.
Yes, I thought he was going to go thick thighs, impressive body.
he's got all that, but then he's got a motor about him that just doesn't quit. He's not satisfied with getting stalemated. He doesn't. So he looks to take on double teams. He splits them like he's supposed to. So he's got the technique to back all that up. It's a winning combination from a D lineman with that kind of talent when he has the drive and the technique that stands behind it. And he's got a little bit of that nasty attitude to him as well. You're building a guy in a lab. He's going to be one of the ones that you pop out. Maybe Aaron Donald's another one, but maybe you probably build Aaron Donald a little bigger if you really had your druthers. But those are the kind of guys that you want to build in the lab that have that, the Derrick Henrys of the world. You want to build that kind of a player. And Jeffrey Simmons is just one of those types of players. He's one of those top D lineman type guys that just gets it and has the ability behind it. Nothing.
I thought Bourne was going to roll with something. He looked like he took a breath, and then he just looked at me like, "Are you just not going to talk?"
It's actually just called breathing.
You need to live.
I apologize.
I was surprised, and the Kevin Byard redemption train continues to roll. I was surprised to learn that is Kevin Byard's first pick six.
Yeah.
I will not lie. I actually was pretty surprised by that too. I could have sworn that he had been able to take one of the interceptions that he had back. Because I think I remember early on in his career, he actually was a guy that was taking punt return reps. Because he was a guy that, ball in his hands. He's a ball hawk right there. So for him, that to be the first time that he had a pick six, very surprising. But we talked about it on the halftime show. He's a guy that he wants to freelance a little bit. He wants to get out there and play games. But ultimately, you see with Amani Hooker, with Dane Cruikshank being his kind of niche role that he's playing. And maybe the guy that is not getting enough credit right now is Chris Jackson having to play on the outside at cornerback. That is a guy that has been talked about as maybe he will be able to hold down the slot role against rookie Elijah Molden, who is also playing very well. But Chris Jackson having with probably I almost made some comparison to with my athleticism. He is immensely better than me as an athlete, but relative to NFL athletes, he is very unathletic. But you talk about a guy that he moves outside in a position that is not supposed to be his position and definitely, absolutely holds his own against either Robert Woods. Cooper Kupp is mostly a slot receiver. Van Jefferson is a guy that's coming on. You talk about receivers for days right there, and that's a guy that has truly held his own and not just got by. Because this is a team that has dealt with guys like Breon Borders or Parrish Cox, and you say, well, they're all right. They only gave up a few hundred plays out there. This is a guy that really stood up and has taken away. And you talk about, Jackrabbit Jenkins on the other side, who everybody wanted to cut 6 weeks into the season. The DBs are playing. And I'm sorry, I'm a DB's coach, so I'm a little bit hyped right now because the DBs are playing.
We called it out. We called it out at halftime. Chris Jackson was making some plays, but he's made some plays down there at the end of the game too, just being all over the place. And those are the things you weren't seeing from some of these backup corners early on, or these backup DBs. They weren't making those plays like just tipping a ball or just being in the area to try to disrupt. And it was this more of there's no one within 8 yards of the receiver. So you're definitely seeing an attitude shift and attitude change in this defense. Because a lot of those sacks early on, yes, credit the front four for everything they did, but there were some coverage sacks early on as well. There was a play later on, or late in the game, I thought that you see, I got to see the all-22 on it, where Stafford goes to wind up to throw an out. It was like a 3rd and 3, which probably would have been a first down. And I can only see the top side of the field where the Titans dropped a man into coverage, David Long out into the flat there to cut off the inside route. I've got to think they were doing something very similar on the other side of the field because Stafford had to pull the ball down and he gets sacked. So a lot of credit to this team. I talked about it, all 3 levels had someone who was playing well and playing beyond their means. It seemed with Byard in the secondary, Jackson in the secondary, David Long, Jam Brown played well. The front four. I mean, you just had all aspects of that defense came to play. Excuse the quote here, brought their lunch pail today and really put some work in.
Well, look, and I see the question here from Tyler Westra on Facebook here. And that's, are the DBs playing or is it the front four with the pressure? And I'd say yes.
Yes.
Like ultimately, there were a couple of coverage early on in the game. They were coverage sacks. They were truly coverage sacks where the DBs were able to hold that pressure. You talk about what's the difference between a coverage sack and getting pressure on the quarterback, and it's ultimately the difference between a 3-second sack and a 5-second sack. And those don't seem like a lot. Look, anything above 5 seconds, and you're just asking too much of the defensive backs regardless. But you talk about they were able to hold up. They had Stafford having to go through his reads, having to hold the ball there, and the thing is, that's the difference that the Titans have not had in recent years. In the recent years, is even if the DBs were able to hold up, they didn't have guys that could get off their blocks and get to the quarterback. The Titans defensive line right now, you're operating a symbiotic relationship right now. You got the defensive line truly able to come up and attack whenever the defensive backs are able to hold their coverage. So the answer is just yes.
This is
It
some good
really
stuff.
is.
This is some good stuff, man.
And good questions coming in chat. I really appreciate that. Again, join us on Facebook, YouTube if you want to leave comments. Twitter still does not have it worked out to communicate with Restream correctly, which really irritates us. So
It's not
if
just
you want to
Restream.
chat with us, jump into one of those platforms. I want to jump in on what really has caught my attention this year versus 2020 is that we had a lot of fun. Well, as much fun as you can joking about the bend don't break defense from last year, which was bend and snap into. This Titans defense is actually bending, and then once they get into the red zone, are really doing a good job of holding teams out of the red zone, out of the end zone, I should say. Again, the Rams did not get to 16 until 25 seconds left in the game. This was a 28-9 game for a while. So 9 points with Stafford putting up 294 yards in the air, that's a testament to where, and what I've gotten more comfortable with seeing in the last few weeks is the Titans allow teams to drive down the field on them, but then they only give up a field goal. And it's refreshing to see. And I was afraid that this defense was going to get a little worn out tonight because the offense was not doing a great job moving the ball, but damn, they held their own for 60 full minutes.
Right. And how many times have you heard an opposing player or coach say that they saw something different from the Titans defense they hadn't seen before, or that they hadn't seen from the Titans, or even just they're doing some great things, some creative things to try to throw the people off. You got some seasoned veterans that they're kind of getting to a little bit. So this defense has also improved as the season. So I don't want to lose that. The defense definitely has improved as the season's go along, as the season has gone along, excuse me. But early on, they weren't playing. I never got the feeling that they were playing bad. It was always just this one or two plays that a game that they were just like had a little breakdown where they're still trying to learn things and work things out. So
Did you get that feeling? Did you get that feeling from me just completely yelling it into every
yes,
microphone around me for
yes,
the for the first 6 weeks
yes.
of the season?
I got that from my co-host on the Coach's Corner. So yes, but I agree with you on that to take credit there. I do agree with you though that this defense, there was just a couple plays that they gave up, but everyone says, "Oh, this defense is terrible." It's just like last year. They're like, no, they're doing better things than they did last year. They're coming to play. This has just got off the rails. So the defense is getting better. The good sign to go forward is that that this defense continues to improve. This offense is going to get better balanced out, and that's got to be a good feeling going forward for the Titans.
No, I mean, listen, I wanted you to come in here and leave comments. Then someone named Jonathan Klinger comes in here and fires out a creaky Jonathan Joseph take, which, if you don't know this about me, if you haven't listened to my podcast, Football and Other Efforts, quick little plug there. When I get tickled about something, I can't leave it alone, and then it makes it worse. So thank you for the creaky Jonathan Joseph comment. And you're dead on. I mean, it really does.
There's much going on right there.
pressure up front, secondary working, break not, bend not break is actually working this year as opposed to last year.
Look, I mean, again, you go back to the defense, and I think one of the biggest things that you see there is this is a defense that is okay allowing those passes to come down in front of them. They've played a lot of two deep, a lot of two man with two safeties behind them. But they're making their tackles. You're letting them make their catches, but then going downhill and actually making your tackle. Don't let them get those yards after the catch, and that's going to make a team actually drive down the field. What you saw, you go back to the worst game I've ever seen, which was the Steelers game from last season, where they were completing these passes, breaking a couple tackles, and breaking off 20-yard runs at their will. It seems so simplistic, but when a team can tackle well, then it makes things so much simpler. And this is a team that is doing the basics. You always talk about when things are not working well, coaches, you'll hear them say, let's get back to basics. We're going to go back to the fundamentals. And this is exactly what you're saying. The Titans are not beating themselves with penalties. They're making their tackles. They're doing their job. And that's a good football team. You don't have to be spectacular. You just have to be okay. And we've said it all off season. We said it all coming into the season. If the offense does their job, which they didn't tonight, but if the offense does their job, the defense just has to be okay. And this is a game that I cannot remember. There has not been many games where the defense can honestly say that they won this game.
So I'm going to throw out a couple of national stats there because it's time to pat the Titans on the back. That's what we're here to do. Positivity, except when they lose, and then we talk a lot of
Those are
shit.
pom
But
poms.
Ed Warder tweeted out kind of a retweet from ESPN Stats Info. The Titans are only the fourth team in the last 15 years to win 4 straight games against playoff teams from the previous season. The previous 3 teams to do it all made the Super Bowl. 2 of them won it. So you got to feel good about that. I mean, that's not a bad stat. And then I'll pour this on there too. The Titans are the only AFC team sitting at 7 wins right now. The AFC as a whole, especially playoff contenders, had a bad day today. If you didn't pay attention, if anybody recorded Red Zone, you haven't watched it, enjoy it. It's a blast. But go check up on your AFC opponents, especially the top seeded AFC opponents, the Raiders, the Bills. It came apart at the seams for a lot of for a lot of teams today, I should say. So I say all that to say this: the Titans have got to click on offense, but this is a team that has the talent to go the length and really can do the damn thing. The Titans schedule gets easier after this.
Yeah, but I was just looking at the schedule. They should be favored in every game going forward. Yeah, this is pretty easy. Not I don't want to say easy, but they have a favorable schedule moving forward. So that's a good place to be with what they just were able to accomplish. But that's the thing is that you've seen Titans teams in the past have kind of gotten this we need our credit. Pat us on our back. Although that's a long comment. I'm gone.
I
Pat,
was just taking you out. This is my wrap it up box for you. I just take you off.
Anyway,
screen.
so you see that they pat themselves on the back, or they want the credit, and then they get a little bit, and then they have that game that comes out of nowhere. Well, you've already had your Jets game for this year, so you're done with that. So don't have that happen again, and just keep doing what you're doing, and keep being hungry, keep playing with that chip on your shoulder.
I want to,
Let's say this: the
yeah,
Titans. I'm just going to say it to all Titans fans. The Titans are going to lose another game this year.
yes,
And Titans fill room, Justin Graver, you can clip that and you can just put me on blast if they don't. If they go on a run, that's fine. If they don't lose a single other game, congratulations. The Titans are going to lose another game. The fact is that today they took care of business. They proved without a doubt they can compete with any team in the NFL, not just compete but win. Not just an underdog, but be one of those teams. And so this is a team that is built to win both in the regular season and then to go into the playoffs because Derrick Henry, in all likelihood, will be back at some point. And you're talking about a fresh Derrick Henry. The Titans should be excited about what they're seeing because what you're seeing on defense. And I will jump into real quick. Sorry, Lebowski. I know you're trying to go into another. I put War and Peace on the screen there, so I'll at least react to it and talk about what do you do when Chris Jackson actually comes back on defense, or when Chris Jackson is there and he's playing at a high level. What do you do when Christian Fulton comes back? And probably you're going to put your best guys out there. And Chris Jackson, if it means he goes to the bench, if it means Elijah Molden goes to the bench, what it means is that Jackrabbit Jenkins is one, probably here for one season, and he's out next season. And two, a team that has been the most injured team in the NFL is probably going to deal with more injuries at some point. So having 4 suitable DBs that you can put on the field and play at a high level, not a bad thing.
Having options is always preferred.
we'll try to answer some of those questions earlier. I'm surfing Twitter and looking for Titans news while you're talking is not an easy thing to do. So excuse me for screwing it up. According to Vrabel, Taylor Wan was unavailable today. He was there in an emergency role. So very typical of Vrabel. It gives you absolutely no information. We were expecting he was going to start because he warmed up, but I don't know what that was. Maybe he was just messing with McVay. I have no idea.
I mean, it's not the first time you saw Bud Dupree early on. He was a guy that went through warmups and they kept him on the sideline. What my only question is, what constitutes an emergency situation in that? Like if it's a left tackle kind of thing, like Taylor Lewan can't play, he could get injured. We don't want to put him at in harm's way. But also, if Bobby Hart gets injured, then we'll throw him out there for this one game, which then would also put him at the same risk as previously. So, like, can he play or can he not play? I don't have answers for that.
We may not get an answer, and I think we just have to be comfortable with that.
So just to rattle off the next 4, Saints at Titans next week, Texans at Titans. Titans then go to Foxborough to play the Patriots, and then Jacksonville after they come back from the bye. So 3 more games before the bye week. And again, as you look at the whole schedule, which is Saints, Texans, Patriots, Jags, Steelers, 49ers, Dolphins, and Texans again, you look at, the Saints, the Patriots, the Steelers, the 49ers are the 4 out of those that I think present the most problem. Now, you say that Jacksonville held the Bills to what, 9 points today. Bills did not look good, but credit to Jacksonville for stepping up. So again, any Sunday teams can step up. But if you had to pick the brutal part of the schedule, it almost seems to work out in the Titans' favor at this point. You come into a little bit easier slide. The Titans still have a bye week coming up, which is going to be much needed. This is a team that if they can continue to build on what they're doing, they should roll into the postseason hot. I'm very hot. So I say that thinly because I don't want to jinx anything, but this is a schedule that is lined up for this team's favor.
So to credit my co-host here, he said this early on, and I don't know if he said it on a podcast or just in tweeting, but you don't want to start as the beginning of the season champs. You know, nobody wants that.
Right.
Very rarely is a team that starts as the beginning of the season champ, win the Super Bowl, go wire to wire. So what you want to do is be that team that's peaking at the right time. And things are starting. I mean, you can really say that the Titans are peaking at the right time. And with the schedule coming up, it really is favorable. As we said earlier, you have this ability to really put some wins together here. I don't even care about these last 2 games. You could rest a couple guys, get ready for the playoffs. You have a lot of options there. Things are really setting up for the scary looking Titans now for the rest of the NFL.
Again, no, I can't find any other information about injuries and stuff. You
I
all
can't
know
find anything on
about,
David
but
Long. I've looked like 4 times.
yeah, I've had to stop looking, guys. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Board.
I consulted my good friend Joe Rogan, and I've heard that David Long is actually okay. He's doing some alternative medicine, and I think he's going to pull through.
You got to take the horsey paste and blast it right up these bad boys. Get it up in your nostrils. So,
no one take that serious, please.
Final thoughts. We're approaching 30 minutes here, so we're about to cut it off so we can all go to bed and enjoy our Monday, which I know we're all looking forward to.
Monday.
But
Can
look,
we get an hour back?
Yes. Does that
We'll just
count,
keep
though?
it going.
yeah, something like that. Spring forward, fall into a pit. I think that's what it is. Brought to you by La Brea. I want to say that as a Titans fan, be very, very proud of the fact that your team just went 4-0 against the toughest schedule that in most of the NFL. That was a hell of a matchup. Chiefs, Bills, Rams, and the Colts, which again, the Colts are no slouch, even though we love to trash on them. But your Tennessee Titans are 7-2. They've all but buried the rest of the AFC South. The AFC is a bloodbath as of today. So your team is set up really well for a nice postseason March. And I don't know what else to say. Enjoy that.
A good spot to be.
Last thoughts, Boren, before I let us go.
I mean, I have the tagline at the bottom: "Are the Titans the best team in the NFL currently?" And look, I think when you look at Arizona came here and beat the hell out of the Titans. Frankly, Week 1's a liar. It's been a long time since that Week 1. Arizona's starting to get banged up. I think they are the epitome of that team that is, don't be hot at the beginning because it's a long season. You have a very, very strong case to say that the Titans right now are the best team in the NFL. And to be able to say that the same week that you lost the maybe MVP in Derrick Henry says something to the credibility of the coaching staff, the front office, despite their most recent draft picks in the early couple of rounds, and just the culture that they build here. And that I think that the fact that is even in the concept of reality that the Titans are the best team in the NFL right now is a testament to everybody right there. So
I've got an argument for sure.
Ryan,
my last thoughts are to agree with Bert Greenlaw in the chat here. Yes, fire Marcus Johnson from all things returning. First of all,
I think he was just asking your question.
All jokes aside. Second of all, I got to call it out for the big boys up front. I know it's not always pretty. I know that they have their issues, and I know that it's you'd like it to be a little better. But again, putting together a patchwork offensive line, and they find a way to get it done. Tannehill, for the most part, kept clean. I know that he had some hits, but it could have been a lot worse depending on what was in front of him with 2 starters down. So kudos to that offensive line. Kudos to Ben Jones for finding it away. I mean, his leg was amputated last week at some point in time, and the week before that, he lost an arm. So Ben Jones just keeps going. This offensive line just finds a way to get it done. It's not pretty, but that's what you want. And as the season goes on, they get healthier. This offense is going to start clicking a little more with whoever's at running back. I really like where the Titans are, where their injuries are coming back, and all that good stuff.
I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought because I can't help but laugh at Taylor Law was available for an emergency situation. It's been an emergency situation on the offensive line for 25 fucking games. Like, what more of an emergency do we need? The house is on fire in some room at every point in this fucking offensive line.
This is fine.
This is fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
I'm just gonna put. Have you ever seen the IT crowd where something's on fire and he picks it up and there's another fire and he goes, "I'm just gonna put this over here with the rest of the fire." Like that. That's basically what's going on with the offensive line. It's on fire at some point. We're just gonna move things over here where there's the rest of the fire.
But they are finding a way to get stuff done. I mean, screw it. I don't know.
I'm in the show with this stat from NFL Research. In their first game without Derrick Henry this season, the Titans defeated Matthew Stafford and the Rams despite having only 69 rushing yards. That's the fewest rushing yards in a win since week 3, 2012, in a 44-41 victory against Matthew Stafford and the Lions. Schadenfreude is a motherfucker.
Oh, Stafford still has never beaten the Titans.
Oh my God, that's right. He has never beaten the Titans. This man has had to move cities and he still can't get it done against Tennessee. That's going to do it for us tonight. Sunday Night Roundtable. Appreciate you all tuning in as always. We're brought to you by BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Please come check us out. Again, future shows. You want to leave comments? Facebook, YouTube. They're going to be your best friends. Please jump in there with us. For Jonathan Bourne, Ryan Watson, myself, Michael Gillum, we're out.